So, we're getting ready to bring yet another baby home.
Ooh.
And we've done this transitioning to a bigger family a few times, but we thought we'd talk about it here, about how to bring a new baby home and make that transition maybe a little bit smoother.
From one sibling to another.
Right.
Let's get into that.
Hey, I'm Andrea Warnock.
I'm Nathan Warnock.
And you've joined us for Family Friday on the Marriage by Design podcast. And this is a time that we get to talk about God's design for families, where we see that in the Bible, and then just maybe some practical things here and there, which is what we're getting into today.
Yeah, it's going to be a practical discussion on when you have a new member of the family. A big piece of that is how do we graft that new family member into the family? Because oftentimes human beings, just in general, we don't deal with change maybe as well as we should, and that can be doubly so for children. So, for our kids who are dealing now with, hey, all of a sudden there's a new baby that's taking mom and dad away, or, whatever the case may be, how do we kind of try and fold that new sibling into the family in a way that helps to make that transition easier for our kids?
Right. So I wanted to talk about two main points that we've found helps a lot, and also understanding it's a big transition, and there's going to be bumps along the way, and
Sure.
some hard emotions, even from maybe parents along the way,
Yep.
and that's okay. But just some things that we've found that helps to bring that new baby into the family.
Let's do it.
So we're going to talk about how to foster connection between baby and the older siblings, and then the second part is leaning into that relationship with those older siblings, the parent-child relationship, being even more intentional with that in the few weeks or months after having that baby.
Sure.
Okay, so talking first then about fostering the connection between baby and older siblings. Now we've got a wide range. We've got an 11-year-old all the way down to an almost 2-year-old, and we'll be having a baby any day. So we've got a pretty wide range of kids, and that looks different for different kids.
Right.
Our current youngest is definitely going to struggle with this new baby coming in way more than our oldest will.
Probably. Yeah.
So
he's a stalker.
Our youngest, yeah, we call him my stalker. I mean, he just is constantly following me and wanting to be around me, and
Yeah.
he's crazy.
Yeah, he's only living his best life when he's in your lap or
by my side,
by you or whatever.
Oh my gosh,
no question.
he is nuts.
That's right.
So
this is gonna be hard because all of a sudden he's dethroned.
This is gonna be hard. Yep. But our 11-year-old, I'm sure he'll have some thoughts and feelings about this new baby coming in. But the other day, he was rubbing my belly or something, and I said, "Is it so weird to think that the inside here is your next sibling?" And he goes, "No, it's happened so many times. It's not really weird." And he's pretty good with change, and yeah, for him, he's like, this is nothing new to me.
Yes.
I'm sure that he has feelings about when we bring in a new baby, but sorry, our monitor is beeping.
Yeah, so it varies.
But we have a wide spectrum. Yep.
So how do you handle this?
Right. So a few things. One is thinking of ways to bring that baby into the life that you live with your kids. So how can we include the baby in the playing that we're doing?
Okay.
So one way, you remember Ryan with the stroller? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so when we brought Lincoln home from the hospital as February 2020, and Ryan at the time was 4 years old, And she was huge into dollies, and still is huge into dollies. But at the time, she had just recently gotten a little dolly stroller, like a little, like
one that you can lay the dolly down. It looks at you, like a pram type thing.
Right. And so, of course, Ryan doesn't know, right? We bring home this new little baby, and so what does she want to do? She wants to take the baby for a stroll in her baby stroller.
Yep.
And so we laid little Lincoln, put some blankets down in the bottom, and of course he was all swaddled up, and we laid him down in there. And over the course of the first 4 or 5 months of his life, I'll bet he walked with Ryan in the stroller around our house, or under Andrea's supervision, of course, around the circle in front of our house for hours.
And he was like mothered by Ryan.
Right.
Because that was her little dolly, live dolly. And she just loved playing dolls.
Right.
So she would play dolly with him.
That's exactly right. And she thought she was just the coolest thing, right? I mean, it was her way of taking ownership of Lincoln.
Yeah.
And not in a creepy way, but in the way of like, hey, she's bonding with him. Yep. She's making him a part of her life.
And she liked to play with dolls, so that was just bringing him into her world.
Right, and as a side note, it was a good way for you to be able to spend some time teaching her about what it means to be a mom, and to, even as a little 4-year-old, she could learn some of those things.
And she was the main one. Riker did some of that. Our current 4-year-old, he was 2 at the time. He did some of that too, and he loved it.
Right.
Another thing is we play pretend, and so like when we would play doctor, Lincoln would be our patient, and he got the stethoscope and the ace bandages and the temperature taking, and and he was just, it's like, well, we're playing doctor, so we can play it on a real person now, a real baby.
And Lincoln liked it too. I mean, he was a baby, but I mean, it's like he wasn't crying. I mean, obviously he wasn't crying or freaking out. He just, it's like, hey, I'm just laying here doing my thing, and people are giving me fake shots and checking my blood pressure and all that.
Yeah, so we just trying to find ways to include that baby in, not have it always be about the baby but about like, this is our life, and now you're invited into the baby's invited into that, and how do we bring that baby in. We also try to be really careful about not criticizing our kids on how they're, as long as they're being good, how they're holding the baby, or how they're interacting with the baby. I mean, of course there needs to be some teaching with the younger ones, especially about gentle touches and all that sort of thing, but not being like a helicopter. Oh, you gotta hold just right. Like, babies are not as fragile as we maybe want to think that they are, and so if the baby's head is, a tiny bit cockeyed, it's okay. And I think if you're just constantly on those kids about, oh, you can't hold the baby, or you can't hold them like that, or whatever it is, they end up just forget it, never mind, I don't want to do that. So we try to be really careful about not really criticizing too much about how they're interacting with the baby and handling the baby and all that sort of thing, within reason. Especially those little ones need some extra lessons in that, but we let older siblings baby wear if they want to. So Jackson has done some wearing the carrier with the baby in it,
like the baby Bjorn or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If he's wanting to do that, then I'm happy to have him do that. That's just another way to like foster that connection. Let's see. And then a big thing is not shutting them out when you're doing things with the baby. So feeding the baby, there's lots. You can read books, have discussions with your older kids. You can play Legos. There's a lot of things that you can build, towers, a lot of things that you can do while you're still caring for that baby. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, gotta care for the baby, you guys need to go do your own thing or watch a show or whatever every single time.
Right.
But still having, doing stuff with your other kids.
And this is one of those things where we just have to prefer to do things the right way, because is it more challenging to feed a baby and play with your kids at the same time? Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine surely that it
Sure.
would be. But is it tempting to just have them watch TV or do something every time you feed the baby? Well, sure, because then you have that time with you and the baby. But and that time's good. Do that when they're in bed. But it's really important to choose to do the difficult thing. And this is one of those times where if you can wrap your head around choosing to do things the sacrificial way and not always the expedient way, it'll really pay dividends in your family.
Yep. Yeah, even with like diapering the baby, I don't of course you can ask, like, can you get the diaper, can you get the wipes, whatever, but after a while that doesn't become satisfying to them, that they don't feel like they're really helping all that much. But if you're like, hey, this baby would like just talk to them and giggle with them while I'm doing this, that would make them happy. Or there was another thing I was thinking of. When the baby's crying, if you've got one of those siblings who are like not bothered by that, and sure, they can try to hold the baby and shush the baby, like comfort the baby to try to keep that baby from crying, and
sure,
maybe it'll work. Who knows? It doesn't always have to be, you.
Right.
They can try. They can try it too, and if it fails, it fails. Whatever, they tried. So,
yeah, one thing that, and I think this is, are we talking about like the role of like Jackson in the child's life and all of that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one thing that I didn't want to put that in at the wrong.
No,
time,
you're good.
under the
You're
wrong
good.
subpoint.
You're good.
One thing that is a really interesting position for this baby that's coming here shortly is the role that each of the kids will play, because a lot of times when you have a new child into your family, the primary role of the other siblings is playmate, right? But in larger families like ours, there's going to be a nearly 12-year difference between Jackson and this
next
baby.
one, yeah.
And so, interestingly, Jackson's role is going to be naturally sort of this hybrid between being a sibling and a playmate. But really, I mean, most of Jackson's interaction with his child's probably going to be more of a mentor, not parents, not the right word, but a
right. We're not going to have our child parent a sibling.
No.
But
naturally,
I think this sibling will see Jackson.
That's what I'm trying to say.
as they grow older, as more of a parent type role.
Right, because there's 12 years difference, right? So Jackson's basically going to move out of the house probably when the child's 6. So, there's that's kind of how it's going to be. And so when we think about it that way for us as parents, it's important for us to recognize that we have basically about 6 years to build relationship between Jackson and this baby. And we're going to have to really be diligent about that.
Yep.
Because even Ryan will have 12 years with this baby, assuming they move out at 18. And that doesn't mean they're gone forever. I understand all of that. But my point is that, it's important for us to build that relationship, but also to help Jackson understand the different role he might play in this child's life than he played in Ryan's life or Riker's life or even Lincoln's life to some degree.
Right. Yeah, and his, our younger kids, the younger that they are going to look at him in a different way.
Right.
And less like a playmate and more as an example.
Right.
And a mentor type. So, and it's important how he fosters that relationship. Yeah,
right.
With
so
those kids.
So I think my point on this is how, when we integrate a child into the family, it's not even necessarily how we treat the child. It's how we address the child with regards to our other children. Meaning, like, sitting down and talking with them about, hey, what role do you want to play in your little sibling's life? right? What maybe what things have you done in your other siblings' lives that you wish you could do differently with this sibling, right? We can help our kids to think about, man, this is like a fresh start.
That's
right?
great.
Maybe I didn't always treat my other younger brother the way I wanted to, but now I have an opportunity here, and helping our kids to understand the really the gift that a brand new life is to them.
Yep, that's great. Okay, so then transitioning, the next point is to help with this transition of a new baby is to lean into that parent-child relationship with the older siblings really intentionally the weeks and couple months after bringing that baby home. You know, I hear a lot of people say, how am I going to love this child as much as I love my first? And it's a lot of times when you have that second child that's what's talked about is, I love my first so much. How can I have that same amount of love for my second? And of course, a lot of people find that it just comes and it's
one of those
just natural.
Life. That's right.
It is, right. But I think we should also be curious and thinking about not just how am I going to love that child, because so often that just happens, but how am I going to have enough patience and empathy and understanding and for the just the situation, because it is hard.
Yeah.
You know, it can be really it can be hard to transition a new life into your family. And
Sure.
how do I have that? How do I see this through the older siblings' eyes and try to understand what they're going through too, and not just getting caught up in all the hubbub of a new baby.
Right.
So anyway, second big point is really fostering that connection and that relationship between the parent and the older siblings. In the coming weeks, it's important that they know that they're not, you know, their importance in the family, their role in the family isn't any less because there's a new baby. Yes, they may be getting less attention because that's just the way it goes. Once you bring a new life in, then everything has to shift a little bit, and
Right.
there's just naturally less time for everything and everybody.
Yeah, sure.
But that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I think we need to recognize that could be a thing that they're thinking about and a thing that they're feeling. So, be extra intentional. By one thing that I really try to do is leave the baby some with Nathan for short times and intentionally have that time with the older kids, either one-on-one or all of them with me, just without the baby being around.
Right.
And then I don't have to try to tend to the needs of the newborn. And also, they're used that's going to be something that's an everyday thing, every day, all day. They're used to that. But having something where the newborn isn't around is nice to just change it up a little bit and let them know you're still important, and having a relationship with you is still important to me.
It's important to train them down the road for when they have their own kids too. 'Cause
Yeah.
sometimes we fall in societally into this belief that, like, hey, you have a new child and your entire life stops. Like, no. It's great. I mean, we if you're listening to our Marriage Mondays, we've been really hammering that kids are a gift from God, a blessing from the Lord. So, but that doesn't mean that they're a ball and chain.
Yeah.
That you should just stop all other life except for with regards to this child. You don't need to do that. It can be destructive when we do.
Right. Yep. And then, use those baby naps it's really tempting to use those baby naps to try to get things done around the house or to nap yourself or whatever. And yeah, when you have just one, that's a lot easier. But once you start having more than one, using some of those to play some games with your other kids or read to them without a baby around or whatever that is, just being intentional with having just the time with those older siblings to love on them in a way that's meaningful to them and spend time with them is important. And forgetting all the diapers that need to be cleaned up or the laundry that needs to be done or the messes and enjoying that time where the baby's just napping and you can focus on those older those siblings is important.
Yep.
Maybe even planning something meaningful and different than you usually would do in those few weeks after the baby is there, just to let the kids know, I see you, I know what speaks to you, I know what you enjoy.
That's a priority to me.
Yeah, I want to make that a priority, and we're going to go do something fun just so that you know you're so important.
It's great.
It's good. Being honest with your kids about your emotions. A lot of times as parents, I think we just don't think about doing that, or don't think that they should hear that, or I don't know what. But being honest with your kids about, this has been really hard for me because things have shifted, and I don't get to I don't get to just sit and read books to just you as much, or whatever that is. Like, this has been kind of hard for me, and then they know you're a human being and you have emotions too, but it might also get them talking about how they're actually feeling about this new baby, and that it's okay to not always feel yay about it either. It's okay to have some real feelings and to talk about that and process through that, and you don't even have to have advice. I think just to hear that and say, I love you, and hug them, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's really important. So ask and listen to their feelings without judgment, and just love them through that. Yeah, and then the other thing is just asking God to help you with those relationships, help you with the transition that's going to happen, and to fill in the gaps for those older kids where things are changing for them, and things are different. So asking God that he would fill in those gaps and they would let him, and all that's important, and I think helps with bringing a new baby home.
No doubt.
So I don't know, any other thoughts from you?
No, it's all good. It's gold.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Well, if you're bringing your baby home, hopefully this is helpful. These are just, some things that we've found along the way, and hopefully this one's as smooth as the other ones.
That's right. And if you have tips on things that you've done,
let us know.
We're not the final word on parenting by any stretch. So if you have things that you've found are successful in integrating a new child into the family, that'd be great. We would love to hear those. Please put them down in the comments below. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you're listening on podcast, love to have you pop over to Facebook and leave those comments in the comment section of our Facebook page. That's Marriage by Design Podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend. And remember, God is for your family. Hey, thanks for joining us on Marriage by Design. If you were impacted by this video, like it by hitting the thumbs up below. Also, don't forget to subscribe, and once you subscribe, hit the bell icon so you can be notified when new episodes release.
Excellent. Also, one of the huge pillars of our show is interactivity between us and you. So we would love you to comment down in the comments below if you have thoughts about this video, or if you have questions or other things you'd like to see considered in the future. In addition, if you'd like, you can email us. That's marriagebydesignpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram @marriagebydesignpodcast, or you can find us on Facebook by searching Marriage by Design Podcast. Finally, if you want to, you can tweet at us. We do have a Twitter account that is @MarriageXDesign. Thanks, and have a great day.